Hello, everybody. My name is Alex DeRoode. I'm the Energy Commissioner for the County of Maui. And I'm really excited to be here today with Todd Yamashita, President of Oahu Energy Cooperative on Molokai. And we're here for the Hawaii Energy Conference. We have our panel discussion. This is a follow-up to our panel discussion from the conference. And our panel is entitled Deploying Utility Scale Renewable Energy Projects Across the Hawaiian Islands, and looking at highlights and comparisons from individual islands. So we had some speakers as part of our panel that gave us an overview of offshore wind energy potential, particularly looking at Oahu. We had David Bissell from KIUC over on Kauai talking to us about renewables, getting high penetration of renewables in their grid and how they're approaching that, as well as looking at hydro electricity and how they're integrating that into their portfolio. And then we also talked with a representative from Ormat on the Puna geothermal project over on Big Island. So today here with Todd, we'd like to kind of focus on particularly the human aspect of renewables and community aspects of renewables. And so I'm going to kick it off here, Todd, with a quick question for you, and we'll go from there. Sound good? Okay. So Todd, if you could share with us about your own experience as president of Oahu Energy Co-op, and tell us how you're seeing local communities engaging with and reacting to utility scale renewable energy projects that are being deployed more and more across our state of Hawaii here.
Aloha, Alex. Yeah, I just wanted to mahalo Maui County and the state of Hawaii for providing this space, this conference. It's no small thing for Molokai to be represented here. So just wanted to be, show my gratitude for having this space. So mahalo. To answer your question, yeah, I've done a few interesting things in my life, but I'm certainly not an energy expert. So I just wanted to start with that. But I will say that, you don't really have to be to understand and appreciate Hawaii's energy landscape. I think you really have to start with the history of it all. And, the history of energy in Hawaii is vastly Hawaii Electric's history, and a system that has allowed it to maintain service in Hawaii for more than a century now. But this system has really remained unchanged in a lot of ways for a really long time. So for decades, even up to recently, many of us here in Hawaii have, seen firsthand effects of grid scale rollouts, and the effect that they've had on some of our communities. A couple of weeks ago, I sat sobbing in front of my computer. Over Zoom, I watched for the first time eyewitness footage of 200 people arrested and ripped away from their communities, 2 years ago in a community of Kohuku and Oahu. Just as startling as seeing mothers and fathers being arrested while their families wailed was just the realness of it. Kahuku represents, to me, in a lot of ways, our unchanged system. And I'm not just saying this, that Kahuku represents the whole system, but I'm saying, in some of these acute areas, they're really affecting our communities. But, the way that business, at times it feels like it's dealt on the backs of our communities. And I'm sorry that this is got super heavy right away, but if anything, I think it calls out an opportunity for change. Primarily, our communities deserve energy justice, and by that I mean projects and systems that include our most valuable asset, each other. Our communities and the families who live in them. There are some new kinds of energy projects out there that are really an attempt to change things. Right now, there are community-based renewable energy projects, or CBRE, that are dropping throughout Hawaii. And that's including here on Molokai. And these projects, these grid scale projects, renewable energy projects, being community-based, they do provide a more concrete mechanism for the community to benefit from these large-scale projects.
So thank you for that, Todd. Yeah, you're ahead of me already. I was going to ask you, bring it home to Molokai, the community where you're from and currently live. And what are you seeing in your landscape there, your local landscape, in terms of utility scale renewables and how the community is engaging with those proposed projects?
It is, I will say it's an exciting time right now. And I think it's because things are changing. To be real about things, we don't have grid scale renewable energy right now in Molokai. We're burning diesel. Consequently, we have some of the highest electricity prices in the nation. So there is a level of urgency right now, but for years the community has been planning in the area of energy. And so when this CBRE project announcement, this community-based renewable energy announcement came out, it was really kind of the spark to pull us together to say, okay, let's do something with this. Let's create some equity on behalf of our community. So, over the past year, through grassroots efforts, we've created two groups: the Molokai Clean Energy HEC, which is a planning and steering group that engages the community to create an energy plan and a vision for Molokai. So this is kind of like we're hiring technical consultants, basically to look at our grid, to help us understand as a community what our energy landscape here looks like, and to help us come up with a plan that helps all stakeholders with that energy future that we're trying to build out. So, and then there's the other entity is Oahu Energy Cooperative here on Molokai. So this is, so we, this arm of the community is kind of like a project coordinator arm. It's a development kind of entity that's owned and managed by the community. So on one side, we're listening for what our community needs are. And on the other side, we're taking action on those needs.
So yeah, you've spoken a bit to this already, but any ways, additional ways that you feel that the process of bringing utility scale renewable energy projects to local communities across our state, any ways you feel that those could be improved that you haven't already mentioned? Because I'll just add to that by saying, if we're not continuously trying to improve ourselves and our processes, we're failing, right? So I think it's fine to look at processes critically and say, how can we do better? So what are some ways that you've seen that might be able to happen?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And honestly, that's why I'm kind of excited about the energy space here on Molokai. For a long time, Molokai is probably been known as a really reactive community, focused on activism and keeping our space. And things have been kind of quiet for the past 10 years. And it's really allowed us a space where we can ask ourselves, what our next step forward is and how can we make the process better for our communities. So, as I mentioned, I would start by getting our community engagement up front. Let's define community engagement to include consultation and also consent. If we're going to be doing large scale community or projects, it's going to be in someone's community. And I think a process that will result in community consent for these projects would be super helpful. We could improve transparency and remove some of the confidentiality so that we know more about the project details, the costs and the benefits up front. That would really help our communities understand more transparently what's in store for them. And then finally, hey, let's engage with the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission. Let's work together to create a better process so that our communities have an equal footing in this process. So, right now, we recently, just last week, we had a conference with the PUC, and it was a status conference. And it was really groundbreaking for us because, and the PUC described it as such as well, because, it's one of the first times where we've been asked to the table at the front of this process. And I think just starting that dialogue, with the utility at the table, and having us, having the opportunity to work together and have dialogues like this, that's that I cannot thank all of the stakeholders enough for providing that space.
Yeah, thank you for that too. Thanks for being a part of it. We could be have this conversation go on for at least another hour and not have hit all the important topics. But any major takeaways? We only have a 30 seconds left here, but any other major takeaways, or what's next for Oahu Energy Cooperative? What's next for Molokai that you see on the horizon that you want to share with folks before we say aloha for today?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I'm asking those of you tuning in today to this, how can each of us personally be transformative in the ways that we engage our Hawaii communities? Can we reset? Can we plan and implement based on community needs and go from there? What's next for the co-op is we are working with the Hui to develop that Molokai plan so that we have our community informed and ready to go forward. We are working with the utility and the PUC to have higher level conversations about developing projects that have more benefit for the community that makes sense for our island. That's a lot of work. We're all community volunteers. None of us is paid for the work that we do. But it is really exciting work. And we truly believe that we're bringing equity to Molokai in a way that is, culturally appropriate and beneficial for our communities. So we just hope that the rest of Hawaii is listening, and that, that we can work together to help get the community up front in these large scale grid projects. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you, Todd. Yeah, great work out there, and keep it up. And I'm sure you're going to have folks reaching out to learn more about what you're all up to and follow your journey, and, wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.